The world gets crazy sometimes. It's crazy all the time. And fellas, sometimes we just need to get away. And down south, we go hunting and fishing to get away. This is the Backroads Podcast. Let's do this. Welcome to the Backroads Podcast. Now, here's your host, Chris Hobbs.
All right, welcome back. We are the Backroads Podcast, here based in Northeast Alabama. Got one Jeff Daniel on the phone with me today. But, Jeff, I wanted to tell you that, we're getting our studio set up here. I've got did a lot of work this week on it, getting it ready to go. We've had a heat and air problem. That's going to be taken care of early next week. So we'll be ready to go, and we're gonna have you and Lee and others on live with us, via Zoom, and that way everybody can kind of check you out, and we'll go YouTubing, and that way everybody can kind of see who they're talking to, and we can show some videos of things we talk about, some things y'all have done.
Well, that sounds exciting, but you need to be careful that it could have the scarecrow effect with Lee being there in person.
Well, I told people he looks like a country music singer.
He looks like Toby Keith.
Exactly, but not a Toby Keith from today. Toby Keith's lost a lot of weight, and I'm not saying Lee's fat. But Toby Keith has lost an exceptional amount of weight, and he looks a little thin for his size.
That's true.
But Lee is now Lee will tell you he's overweight, but he's a big boy.
He's tall enough to carry it.
Yeah, he's a big boy, but he does look a lot like Toby Keith from his younger days. He really does. So I don't know if that'll help or hurt, but we're going to go with it anyway.
That's right.
But, Jeff, I know you got some, want to talk to us a little bit on this episode about Wedowee.
Yeah, it is finally time to go gorilla fishing at Wedowee.
Oh.
And all I mean by that is the fish are finally pushing back up shallow and just super aggressive. It's put the big buzz bait in your hand. Again, you can just get on the seawalls in the morning. You can run the shallow pockets all day long. You can finally put the sissy stuff down and go gorilla fishing, as I say.
This time of year in early spring, there's just not a better time on the water.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. And it's just getting better. I can't wait till we've had a few good frosty nights, drop that water on down some more, but it's happening. It's the best time.
When do you think they're going to draw the water down on Wedowee? Because when they drop it, they drop the bottom out of it.
Yeah, usually on Wedowee and most of our local lakes, it's usually somewhere around that first 2 weeks of October they'll start it, and then by Thanksgiving it's there.
But if you know the lake well enough, isn't that a really good time to get out there and try to catch a gorilla?
Oh, yes. I would much rather the water be down. I don't even care that it's cold in the winter. I would much rather the water be down, especially at Wedowee, than up. In fact, I have always said the weird thing about Wedowee is it is the complete opposite of your normal understanding of fishing. The colder it gets there, the shallower those fish push. And it is the hardest thing to convince someone of in their mind, because it is a deep highland reservoir, really clear water, and everybody's going to think, man, it's just frigid cold today. Those fish are going to be super deep out on the river. No, they're not. So we caught fish, and I mean good fish, all day long on a buzzbait December the 14th or 15th last year.
On a buzzbait?
throwing a buzzbait. Basically the middle of December, and I'm going to say we caught maybe close to a dozen fish, and some of them were 3+ pounders on a buzzbait, and they were as far back in the pockets you could see the bottom back there because we would laugh with each other. I don't know how I didn't see that fish. So
That's crazy. I've
it
spent a
is.
little time on Wedowee, but and that's one reason I like having you on because you like that fishery. A lot of people I know don't. They won't go to Wedowee because they really don't want to take the time to learn how to do it.
Yeah. And most people, again, the majority of fishermen are really warm weather fishermen. They're hunting all during the fall and winter, and then they're just really starting to get interested in fishing. I say this carefully. About the time Wedowee starts to slow down, most people are starting to go after them. The summer, late spring through the summer at Wedowee is super tough. I think we've talked about it before. You better be an electronics guru and be very comfortable with a fairy wand, a spinning rod, and little bitty finesse stuff in 30, 40 foot of water in the warm months.
Wow.
And you go there, starting about now. And again, the next 2 months, it's just getting better and better and better. And you'll swear you're not even on the same lake. You're not even catching the same fish. It's like, where did all these big largemouth come from?
Well, what would be a good tactic from now until the end of September? What kind of baits would you throw? What are you really kind of looking for, structure wise on that lake?
Yeah. So I'll tell you my most recent trip. I can tell you what I would do. This was working then. It's exactly what I would if you and I were packing up to go right now. This is exactly what I would do. You can really do two different methods. Any of the underwater structures. So there's a bunch of big rock piles, some road beds, some swags that are very shallow. Your boat is sitting in 40 foot of water, but you're throwing up into about 5 feet. So you could stay on that offshore stuff and throw some sort of walking top water across it, and you're primarily catching the spotted bass. Or you could put a buzz bait in your hand, a buzz bait or a swim jig, even a spinner bait, and just go to the pockets and run the seawalls and any visible cover. And once the sun gets up, you can stick with that. It is going to slow down. Now, I'll tell you, uh, you know, 6 or 7 or 8 weeks from now, you can run it all day long. But right now, it's going to be that typical. Once that sun gets up and high, those fish are still there, but Wedowee is full of floating docks. I would put a weightless Cinco on and just start skipping under those boat docks. That's what I would do.
Well, that's similar to I chased Rusty Burroughs down today, and I pre-recorded a
Bless your heart.
fishing report with him for Neely Henry because he was on it yesterday. And he said that on the Coosa, that's pretty much the same thing. As the sun got hotter, he really started hitting some docks on the bank side of the docks, the shallower side of the docks, in the shade. And you'll get to hear that on the pre-recording, the Rusty, a little bit later in the show. But that seems like this time of year, that's where you're gonna, your best opportunity to catch them is going to be in those areas.
And I would be remiss, especially with all the current firestorm that's going on about it. Guys, if you've got the forward facing sonar on your boat, I know you're up shallow, but shallow is relative at Wedowee. Again, these pockets are still 10 to 20 feet deep in the middle. If you're going down these banks throwing at the seawalls and stuff, keep looking back. Keep turning your trolling motor out behind you and just look. These big spots they're starting to get up there and just roam in the middle of the pockets again, chasing the bait balls. I would also keep something on the deck to throw at those fish.
Well, that's man, I love that time of year when they start doing that. That's
Yeah.
some of the most exciting fishing you'll do right there.
And really, you should, any day now, you should start seeing schoolers. Crazy enough, we had about a 2 week period about a month ago where everywhere you went, the water was just boiling. They were schooling everywhere. And it was just like they did it for just a few days and then they disappeared. They were nowhere to be found. But it's time. It's time. Literally, right in the middle of the high sun, noontime. You're in 100 foot of water, and they're just going to come up anywhere.
That's see, I'm still amazed by the fact that you can go to Wedowee and 10 feet off the bank. When you put your boat in, and I've seen this on the, and it kind of freaked me out the first time I went there. I went with a buddy from Heflin, and he said, "Watch this," and we went from 10 feet to 100 feet in just a few feet.
Yeah, boat length. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
What's really creepy is you're weaving in and out of treetops, and you notice that you're in 80 or 90 feet of water. I don't know why, that just gives me the willies. I feel like there's a Loch Ness monster down there in all those trees.
Well, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go into that part or lead anybody to believe there is one, but I'm with you. I mean, that first time it was cold. I mean, it was cold that day, but that because he said, "Man, go to Wedowee with me." I said, "No, it's too cold, man. I'm not gonna catch nothing." He goes, "No, it's Wedowee."
That's the time.
And I said, "Well, okay, I'll give it a try." And we did have a good day. I think he caught one about 7.5. I caught one about 6.
Wow.
But I mean, it was like in 30 feet of water. I mean, it was nuts. But yeah, I mean, he would. That was back before Humminbird, came out with the forward facing sonar and the down imaging and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, "Check this out. Look how tall these trees are." And I said, "You see them sticking up out of the water?" And I'm thinking, it's probably 15 or 20 feet. No, it ain't.
Wrong.
Yeah. I mean, God almighty, I didn't realize how tall these trees were. Yeah, but I agree with you. That is freaky.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, man, I appreciate you coming on. I know, it's the end of a long day, and I appreciate your time and, your contributions to the show. And yes, I'm buttering you up for you to continue to help us out. When we go, we're going to have some YouTube stuff, and hopefully you'll get your GoPro going on your boat again and get us some good videos, and we'll be able to show those on the YouTube show as well. So, Jeff, I appreciate it.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun fall, man, because, fishing's going to be back better than ever, and then we're getting into bow season, and we'll get into all that with Rodney and Lee, and I know you too, because if there's a season, you're on it.
That's right.
Jeff, thanks, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Same to you, brother.
All right, Rusty Burroughs. We had to track you down here because I know you're not going to be able to talk to us on the regularly scheduled hours of our podcast, but I did want to have you on. Know you went to Neely Henry, and just want to get a little fishing report from you.
Yes, we fished yesterday, Wednesday, in a 60 and over tournament. We put in at 10 Island Park. That's the dam ramp right across Neely Henry Dam. And had a good day. Fish bit really well. It was a great morning, good, crisp, and cool, and it didn't get hot until about 11 o'clock. And then when it did, it got real hot. But I started off early. We actually start before daylight. So I started off throwing a black single-bladed Colorado blade spinnerbait, and I caught a limit before it got daylight, and we started at 6. So by 6:15, I had a 3-fish limit, 3 spots. They were on rocky points right there near the dam. And if a man wanted to catch a lot of fish, he could go and fish a couple of hours prior to daylight every day and throw that black spinnerbait along those rocky points and catch a lot of fish because they're up shallow feeding pretty much at night. But once it got daylight, I changed from the black spinnerbait. I went to a white chatterbait, caught several more on a chatterbait. And as the day went on, I moved up the lake and went into some of the pockets off the main river channel, and I fished the shallow docks. And I took a small profile jig with a Super Chunk Junior trailer. And right now, the crawfish are solid green pumpkin color. There's no red in them, no orange in them, just solid green pumpkin. So I used a green pumpkin colored jig and a green pumpkin Super Chunk Junior dipped in chartreuse tail, and I pitched it on the shallower docks. Now, if you approach a dock and the dock has 2 feet of water at the base and then out on the end has 10 feet of water, there's nothing in the 10 feet of water. The fish are right up against the bank in the shallowest first 2 or 3 sections of the walkway of the dock. Now, if the dock goes all the way to the bank, it'll be closest to the bank. Right now, bass, like we are, they like the shade or they like cooler temperatures. So the 2 places they can get cooler is either get under something shady like a dock, overhanging tree, jet ski ramp, whatever. They can get under there for shade, or they can go deep. So I caught those fish in the lakeshore area around those docks, caught several. Every dock had a fish or 2 on it. And then I moved out to one deep place I knew and switched to a crankbait, and I caught a couple out there. But the quality seemed to be in the shaded, shallower docks. So at the end of the day, I went back to those docks and upgraded my catch. I went to a bigger jig, same color, but bigger jig, and seemed to get a couple of bigger bites. So if you're planning a trip to Neely Henry or Logan Martin or Weiss, always the Coosa River Lakes docks hold fish. You can catch some fish on docks. But you either need, if you want to catch a big bag, you either need to go deep or go to the docks and fish shallow or go somewhere there's shade. And they're biting good. I fished the week before at Neely Henry on that Man Up for Cancer, the Casting for a Cure that Dr. Pirani and his wife put on every year in Gadsden. My wife and I fished that. We did the same thing, but in a different part of the lake. We fished from City Park in Gadsden up, and we went off the river channel into the pockets, Cove Creek, Hurtsboro. There's a fish on every dock in both of those that I caught on a jig. Now, the quality is not there. I didn't catch any 4 and 5 pound fish, but a lot of 2 to 3 1/4 pound fish you can catch. Now, each of the pockets I've been in the last 2 trips, and they've been 4 days apart, 5 days apart, shad are moving into the pockets. You can see in the mouth of every cut there's fish because there's shad moving in, moving out. So as the fish or as the shad move back into the pockets, the fish are going to follow them, and a pocket pattern will be good as it cools off and the days stay cooler longer. You can go in there and your bait of choice, chatterbait, spinnerbait, small crankbait, all will be good. And when we have a frost or 2, you can take a little 1/4 ounce buzz bait and catch them in the pockets. But right now is a good time to go. I know in the middle part of the day it's real hot for us, but the fish still bite. I've had good luck, good success both days, and I have been on Neely Henry, but you can do the same thing, same pattern at Weiss or Logan Martin.
Well, I appreciate your time, Rusty, and I know everybody appreciates a little insight, a little tip here and there. Try to get a leg up on everybody. And you've been on that water a long time, so I know you know where to fish.
Well, I hope I do. I think I do. And, there's no substitute for time on the water. And I've been on there more than most people. And I've been blessed to be retired now 21 years. And I've taken advantage of my days off and put my time in on the water. And it helps out on tournament Saturdays.
Well, we appreciate it, Rusty. I know you're busy. I'm sorry I had to track you down here. But I did want to get your insight on Neely Henry, and I appreciate it, and I think everybody else does too. So we'll talk to you next time.
That's great. Thanks.
And I believe we got Lee Pitts on the phone right now. Lee, you there?
Man, I'm in with you. I'm here.
Well, I haven't hired a producer yet, so it gets kind of hit and miss on this thing sometimes. So that's why I have to ask, are you there?
Yeah, you got to check in. Hey, check. Are you in? Are you in?
That's right.
I got you. Yeah.
Well, man, what's going on? I hadn't talked, we didn't do a podcast last week. Got rolling in this week, and we'll start doing them once a week again when there's more stuff going on. And I think we're getting about there. A little nicer out today as far as less humidity. Still hotter than hell. But man, I'm telling you, the little cool mornings when you walk out and it's and it's just not, oh shit, it's hot.
It was not oppressive.
Yeah, it wasn't
not very
oppressive, but
oppressive this
it
morning.
really gets me fired up for what's going on. We had dove season here in Alabama kick off last weekend, and man, that was a blast. And now we're really looking forward to.
Let me tell you, you're talking about dove season.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how my opening day went. Okay.
All right.
For one, I had a half a day trip that morning, so we crappie fished, caught a few. It's still hot, like you said, but we got out there and I went to one of my friends' place, and he had a good field set up for us, and we were going to shoot about 3:00. We got out, and his daughter is a avid hunter, a really good deer hunter, good with firearms, good shot. And she has some of her friends that always, so he and I more or less just kind of made sure everyone was taken care of. That was our job with this. But about 5:00, a bird shot hits in the middle of the field. His daughter walks out there, and all of a sudden she starts hollering and shooting. She's got a new puppy she's training, and she's blowing dust. It looks like the old cartoon Yosemite Sam when he's rootin' tootin', pow, 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 pow,
Yeah.
shooting the ground.
Oh, yeah.
4-foot rattlesnake with 6 rattlers on it.
Oh,
out there
my
in
God.
the middle of the field.
Yeah, that I would have looked like Yosemite Sam too. I
I
would have unloaded every
they're
shell.
still creeping and crawling. Be careful, guys. They're still out there. They're still out there shaking the ground a little bit.
Well, and see, now is copperhead baby season.
I saw that on Facebook yesterday.
This time of year, them little babies are hatching, and they get everywhere. They'll get in your yard, in your shrubs. So if y'all are doing any gardening or out in the woods, those little jokers will, and the thing about the smaller snakes, and most people know this, is most full mature snakes will bite you just to, scare you off, get rid of you.
Yeah.
But those little snakes don't know any better. So every bit of venom in them, they'll release in you.
No, they give it all they got. They're just like, hey, here's my chance. I'm fixing to be a big man.
Yeah. So
I told you that I got bit 2 years ago by a copperhead on my foot, didn't I?
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was out there weed eating and I'm right here on the lake. We got a lot of rock around there. Got some blocks that we got bordered through it. And I'm weed eating. I thought I'd got in a bee's nest because all of a sudden I felt something hit my foot. I jumped back, and my dog, he takes off. Old Finn, he takes off in front of me, and I saw him. I was like, oh, no. I looked down on the top of my foot, like where you would punt a football.
Yeah.
He hit me. They were about 1.5 inches apart, maybe, I don't know, 2 inches, whatever. 2 holes and blood coming out of it.
Oh, man.
And I thought, man, this is all I need. And this one was when I was going through my chemo treatments.
You got bit by a snake while you had cancer going through chemo.
While I was going through chemo. So I go back to the truck and I sit on the tailgate and I look at it and I said, man, I've always wondered what happened if this did happen. And so I reached in there and found me one of them old sarsaparillos and cracked it and went to sipping on it, just looking at my foot. And I was like, well, it doesn't hurt. And the blood finally quit running out of it. And I thought, well, I'll just keep an eye on it. So I'm gonna make this quick story. Long story short, it swelled up on me pretty good, turned gray, a little bit of blue, had some swelling in it. This was on a Wednesday. Friday, I went and saw my oncologist. And when I walked in, he said, what happened to your foot? I said, I got bit by a copperhead. He said, what did the doctor say? I said, I don't know. I'm fixing to ask him. And he just shook his head and he mashed on it and mashed on it. I said, I felt like I had enough chemicals in me that probably counteracted. He said, you probably killed him. And he mashed around on there. Says, does it hurt? No, it don't hurt. No, it don't hurt. And I finally said, well, Doc, what do you think? He said, hell, I don't know, man. Just keep an eye on it. I don't know.
Well, that's reassuring.
Yeah. So I was like, I guess I'm going to be okay. I'll be all right.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man.
I'll sleep well tonight.
But anyway, about a week and everything went back to normal. So I was good.
Man, I thought that'd make you sick as a dog.
Well, I talked to some people that know snakes. I mean, well, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Some of these rednecks up here that catch snakes. And he said, whatever happened, you probably stepped on an old snake, just like you said a minute ago, that just hit you to get you off of him, or he did what they call a dry bite. He hit you and didn't release any venom just to get gone. And either way, I'm glad whatever happened. But
Yeah, well,
I got lucky on that one.
Well, that's why I bring it up, because them little bitty-uns, I don't know if they're trying to make a name for themselves or if they're just mean as hell. I don't know, but
I guess that's what it is.
they'll give you all they got, which ain't
anyway.
good.
Yeah.
Well, I know you had an auspicious start to today's Friday, an auspicious start to your Friday. You wanna elaborate on that?
You know, it's one of those things that every step of my day, and I look at it as a game plan or whatever, but it's like tournament fishing. Okay, if this doesn't work, you're gonna change this. If this works, go with this. So each day when I get up, and we get up early here. I mean, we're up an hour before the sun comes up. Me and Laura, we're got our coffee, we got our breakfast, we're ready to go. Anyway, I come down early this morning, and you know how my house lays out. I've got where both trucks and both boats are pulled under the house.
Right.
We're a raised structure, so I can pull them under the house, and I've got lights under here where I can cut it on and work on things. And matter of fact, I'm sitting in the boat right now. I'm out here in my bass boat getting it ready for tomorrow. But I get up, and I was a beautiful sight. I mean, I had my underwear on and my flip flops, trying to wake up. Got my cup of coffee. No, I didn't have a coffee by then. I came down here, and I'm hooking up some chargers to get my little mini tank charged up, get my remote control for my trolling motor charged up. And I rear back and stretch my arms, and like everybody does when they get up, and I give a big old yawn. And I don't know if it was a mayfly or a bug, or it could have been a dragonfly. I don't know. Went straight down my throat this morning. So I'm coughing, spitting, trying to halfway puke, beating on the side of the boat. The only thing I had to drink, I see my dog's water bowl over there, and I make a dash for it, and I'm scooping up in my hand dog water, and I'm thinking to myself, happy Friday.
Just the thought of you in your skivvies scooping up water.
Oh, I'm pretty.
Dog bowl. That is, man, damn, I don't know if I'll be able to get that out of my.
If somebody had been out there and got a jump on it and was early fishing and fishing the grass beds in front of my house and saw that, they thought, man, that old boy right there got some problems. he really got some problems.
Well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to breathe. I didn't care where that water come from. I was trying to breathe.
Oh yeah, that was I have to say a pretty good start to your Friday. I hope it got better from there.
It did. It got better. Thank goodness. It did get better. You know.
All right. Well, let's talk a little fishing. Tell us what you know. I know you've been out there a little bit, but I know that what we've been talking about for ad nauseum for, gosh, seems like forever is the heat. So, what you got going on Weiss, and have you fished anywhere else?
Yeah, I've spent some time the last couple of weeks on Weiss and Neely, and really, I mean, it's that your stereotype summertime fishing, but these cooler nights are really kind of helping things early. The grass bite is still on a little bit now. You know, that July, August, everything got out there deep, but now some of the deeper fish are moving. I've noticed the water temperature has dropped a little bit. Today it was 81, 82, you know, and I stayed more out on the river today because I was crappie fishing. I was dropping minnows down. And the one thing that I can tell on Weiss, the Bobby Garland itty bit, and I don't know if a lot of you know what I'm talking about, the itty bit, that they make also an itty bit in that baby shad, the slab slayer, and some of the smaller baits. But this is a bait that's a lot more compact. It's a smaller bait than what you're used to using on your regular garland baits. And man, they have really been, when I'm getting them over that deeper brush right now, they're being more productive. And I think that's why these fish are not wanting a big minnow. And I've noticed that in the falls here the last 4, 5, 6 years. Everybody wants to. You look at the minnow bucket. Oh man, there's that big old giant one. That's what I'm gonna put on. But something about this fall season, these fish are wanting a smaller bait. And that 80 bit has really, really been a producer the last 2 weeks for me. And we're not even really in our fall season yet, but it's starting to be where you can go through it. And I'm vertical dropping right now, looking at them on my hummingbirds and looking at these fish on brush, and they're holding tight to brush. But I'm vertical dropping straight up and down. But you can beat on it a little bit. If you don't get bit, you can swap to that 80 bit, and it's producing fish. So if some of you guys are out there trying to get a little early start on our fall fishing, try some of that smaller stuff. Try these smaller baits. And I think these fish are just a little timid. They're just now getting around that brush, getting comfortable with it. And I think it may be something that can help you put some more numbers in the boat.
Well, what colors are you looking at for this time of year?
Normally, it's they're after the little minnows and things like that, but man, a black and pink, black and chartreuse, and then you go the whole opposite, white and chartreuse. That's been my 3 colors that have been producing for me. And I know it doesn't make any sense. It may be something with the clarity of the water. It may be something what they can see it better. But I'm doing that, and I'm putting it on a yellow head.
What, and I should ask this to my follow up when you're talking about the itty bit, but what size head are you using on that?
I'm putting a little bigger head. The itty bits are made for like a 148 to 164th. I'm going ahead and putting a bigger head on it just because I'm doubling it, and I'm putting a big, I'm talking about a buckshot, that gum split shot in the middle of them. That way, because I want that, I'm in 12, 14 foot of water. I don't want that bait to sweep a whole lot. I want to get it down where it's straight up and down. I can feel it. When I move that thing around in the water column, maybe a 124th, something like that I'm using on the heads. But I'm putting the weight more towards the bottom and not just right in the middle of them, because it kind of gives a twist to it if you do that. Right. But I'm probably going more 3/4 towards the bottom. That way, when I drop it down and kind of give it a something, trying to get a reaction bite, give it a little hop, they don't twist on me and they don't catch themselves and tangle up. So it's just something that I do that I've kind of figured out that you don't have to, you won't stay as tangled up as you would if you put it right in the middle.
Well, how's the bass fishing going right now on Weiss Lake?
Man, the bass are still doing, it's for this time of year. Here in Neely, both are still staying pretty strong. The fish are starting to move. They're moving quicker than what they normally do. Some of the deep fish are leaving. And I shouldn't say a whole lot about some of this stuff right here, because I know we got some big things coming to Weiss here in the next few weeks. But some of these fish are trying to make a push and get back in some of these shallower pockets, shallower places. Still staying on wood cover. The majority of the fish are even on the river. They're pulling up on the high side of the river and getting around this brush and these stumps. But the spots and the largemouth are still biting pretty good periodically through the day. You'll have a 30-minute, 45-minute stretch where, man, I hit 3 docks and caught 3 big ones, and then I hit a seawall and caught a big one off it. Then it died for 2 hours.
Right.
So it's not a all day. Hey man, the doors are open, we're feeding. It's a periodic kind of 30-minute stretch here and there.
Well, that's pretty much what Rusty fished Neely on Wednesday in a little 60 and over tournament he fishes in, and that's what he said. Back in pockets on docks that have a lot of shade.
Yep.
He was able to get bid on those, but it was early. And then once it got hot, they shut down for a while.
Yeah, and I think a lot of too. What you can look at too. I love to pitch a jig. I mean, I love to put that big old jig on there with that big 4 or 5 aught hook, and I mean, you're punching, you're doing, but they're finessed down a little bit right now too. What they're wanting is that D-bomb. They're wanting that little rage crawl, biffle bug. You know, Gene LaRue makes that biffle bug that you can flip and put on something. Slow it down just a little bit, something that they can look at and then go over and kiss on and pick it up. It's not that you pitch a jig and by the time it almost hits the bottom, the line's running off. It ain't that.
Right. Well, let's have now. I know you haven't been on Gunnersville, but any word on Gunnersville on how the fishing's going there?
Yeah, I'm going tomorrow. I've got a group of riders that I'm taking out tomorrow over there, and Gunnersville, the same thing. The fish are in transition. They're starting to come out of some of those shell beds, come out of those ledges, and what they're looking at is more that 8-10 foot good steep bank. And when I say bank, not dirt, but I'm saying the grass lines.
Right.
You know, they're wanting that kind of steeper where they can still get in that, little range where they're comfortable, and that thermocline, they can lay in it, and as it moves, they move with it, and just up and down in that grass line. But they seem to be on the edges. The frog bite, from what I've heard, they're getting some blow ups and catching some fish with a frog on the mat. You know, everybody says, "Hey, I'm fishing the cheese." You know, that's they're fishing that mat, but it's not quite right yet. About another 2 weeks, maybe 3, it'll start getting that. Everybody tells me when it starts getting that burnt cheese look, where it looks like your pizza and it's burnt on top.
Yeah.
That's when it's right. You know, and when you hear and I'm going back to food, you can tell by looking at me, I'm going back to food things. But when you hear them Rice Krispies popping,
Yeah.
that's those brims smacking up underneath it, and they're pop, 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 and it sounds like Rice Krispies popping. That's when them fish are going to get right on that stuff.
Yeah, fishing the cheese. I that is because I don't fish Gunnersville much anymore. Not like I used to. So I haven't heard that in a while. That kind of that brought back a good memory.
Once you know what you're looking for, you'll get that, because people are listening right now and they'll say, "What is he talking about? Fishing the cheese, the burnt cheese?" But you can see when you look at that grass mat, and you say, "Oh, there it is, right there." And it may be a little old 10-yard stretch or a crease in some other stuff, but you'll learn to read that, and that's what you got to do. It's just like on Weiss and Neely and Logan Martin, reading our bank grass here, knowing what you're looking for, knowing where the cuts are in it, and you got to learn how to read that grass, because not all that grass is productive.
Right, exactly.
You got to learn how to read the creases and read. Okay, oh yeah, there's a drop right here, and it runs off right there to that creek swing. Same thing with that grass at Gunnersville. You got to read that cheese.
Read the cheese.
Read the cheese,
I
baby.
I love it. Well, look, man, the Crappie Expo is coming to Birmingham at the end of September. Are you going to be involved in that this year?
I'm going to go. I'm going to go up there and with Bobby Garland, and see all the people there and talk to them, and but as far as being involved in it, I won't. I'll just be there and man, I hope nobody don't take it wrong, but I'll be there to be seen and talk about Bobby Garland products.
I hear you. So you're just going to be up there kissing babies and shaking hands.
Yeah, there you go.
I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you. Well, if anybody would like to go to that, it's a really good event. It's at the Jefferson Convention Complex in Birmingham, Alabama. It's September 22nd through the 24th. So if you'd like to meet Lee, talk to Lee, talk fishing with Lee, that'd be a good. Are you going to be there all 4 days?
No, I'll be there 2 days.
2 days.
And,
Sorry,
and I've got to look and
I was
see
looking
what
at a
dates
different
they are.
calendar.
But I'll be there 2 days.
2 days. Gotcha. Okay. Well, good deal. Lee, man, appreciate it again. I know you got getting ready for in the morning, trying to get your boat set up. So as always, we appreciate you checking in and your time, and we will holler at you next week.
Man, that sounds good. Hopefully, I'll have some pretty good pictures. Like I said, I'm going to the big pond tomorrow to read that cheese. So hopefully, I'll have some good pictures I can share with you next week.
Fist of cheese.
Got to read that cheese.
All right, Lee. Talk to you next week, man.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Lee. Well, guys, thanks again for listening. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to us talk fishing and hunting. And we will talk to y'all. Hopefully, we're going to be back on a weekly basis. I believe it's getting to be about that time. So we will talk to y'all later. And God bless you, and God bless America.